What does it mean, eternally begotten? Eternally begotten. Everyone with me now? Eternally begotten. Here's what it doesn't mean. When the church fathers meant Jesus is eternally begotten, they didn't mean that God created Jesus from nothing, brought Jesus into being from nothing. Okay? As the centuries went on, the church fathers finessed, fine-tuned their understanding of what it means for Jesus to be begotten of the Father. So number one, it doesn't mean God the Father brought Jesus into existence, into being, created him from nothing. That's not what they believed. Okay? That's in the creed, by the way. Do me a favor, first and last. Post that part of the creed where it says, in one Lord Jesus Christ, only begotten Son of God, begotten not made, begotten before the ages. Because historically, the Filioque was added later on to the creed, as even the Orthodox and the Coptic and the Assyrian churches will tell you, right? And secondly, the Bible nowhere says that the Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. Even though the Bible doesn't speak of their ontology in great depth, in the economic Trinity, the way the Trinity works in respect to redemption, you see the Son sends the Spirit from the Father, and it says he proceeds from the Father. Okay, thank you. And in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, begotten of the Father before all worlds, light of light, very God of very God, begotten, not made, begotten, not created, being of one substance with the Father. Okay, everyone understand? The Christians did not mean that the Father produced Jesus from nothing, created Jesus. No, Jesus is eternal, uncreated in nature. He's an eternal person. Begotten of the Father, but not in time, where the Father then produced the Son, brought the Son into being. Begotten eternally, a timeless reality. Okay, let me show you a passage that I want you to keep in the back of your mind. Yes, I believe it's so. Yes, it is. Yep, it is. I believe so. Yeah, Orthodox, you're right. Assyrian. Okay, let me give you a passage to keep in the back of your mind. Isaiah 55, verses 8 to 9. Listen to this. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord Jehovah. By the way, use now the Jehovah's Witness Bible, Protestant. We're gonna stick with the Jehovah's Witness Bible to prove our point. Yeah. Well, David Shelton, it's a little more technical than that, and I'll get into it. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, and your ways are not my ways, declares Jehovah. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So notice what you need to put in your mind for tomorrow's session, God willing. Study this passage, read it, and reread it, and reread it, and ask the Spirit to ingrain it in your heart and your mind. God says, my way of doing things is not the way you do things. And my thoughts are not your thoughts. The way I do things are higher than the way you do things. In other words, just because when human beings beget, that implies a moment in time, that doesn't transfer over to God. God begets in a different way from his creation because his ways are higher and greater than our ways. You may beget in time, meaning when you beget, that requires a moment of time. But don't apply the time factor to God. Just because God begets doesn't mean he does so in time, in a moment of time, because the way God acts and the way he begets is different from the way creatures bound to time do so. You understand what you're supposed to take away from this? You understand what I want you to be focusing on as we discuss it tomorrow? Okay? Yes, relationship. God's ways of doing things, his begetting is different from the way creatures bound to time do things and beget. You do things in time, so your actions are bound by time, right? Before and after. That doesn't transfer over to an eternal being, an eternal reality, and eternal relationships when time doesn't play a role. Are you with me there? You with me? So Isaiah 55, 8 to 9 will be the guiding passage. I'm going to refer to it over and over again. My ways of doing things is not the way you do things. My way of doing things is not the way you do things. My ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts. So when God says he begets, don't assume he begets like you. He doesn't beget physically. He doesn't beget sexually. And he doesn't beget in a moment of time. When it comes to the eternal relationships of the Godhead. Right? Is it making sense? I want to make sure you get that point. What they meant was that the deity of the Son, the divine essence of the Son, the essence that the Son possesses is the essence of the Father that he shares in common with the Father, because the Father is the source of the divine essence. He's the source of deity and all the divine attributes. So the deity of the Son is the deity that the Father possesses, which the Son shares in eternally, inseparably. So the Father is the source, and the Son possesses that divine nature in union with the Father, because it's the Father's essence that he shares fully and completely. So the Father's essence is the Son's essence, is the Spirit's essence, but the Father is the source of that essence. Who didn't get it? This is why the early church fathers believed in something called the monarchy of the Father. The monarchy of the Father. You know what they meant by that? The Father is the fountain, the source of deity. The divine essence originates from him and in him. Okay? And that's one of the reasons why he's also called the Father. The divine essence originates in and from the Father. And the Son's essence and the Spirit's essence is the essence of the Father that they perfectly, fully possess and share in eternally. Why would it be material? See, there you go again, Guy. Which part of Isaiah 55, 8 to 9 wasn't clear, Guy? Didn't I just not say, don't impose your understanding of these terms on the Godhead? How can it be material when God is immaterial, Guy? You just did the very thing I told you not to do. Don't assume God does things the way you do, and Guy did that exactly. So is that essence material? How can it be material when God created all matter and is immaterial by nature? Now, coming back to the issue, what does it mean that the Son is eternally begotten? It means that the essence of the Son is the essence of the Father that the Son shares in fully and eternally, inseparably. So the Father is the source of the essence that the Son possesses and the Spirit possesses. Right? You understand what it means? So if you ask the church fathers, right, what distinguishes the Father and the Son and Spirit? You know what they would tell you? They'll say the Father is unbegotten, the Son is begotten, and the Spirit proceeds or is breathed out. You with me there? Let me repeat again. The fathers called God the Father the unbegotten God, in contrast to the begotten Son. And they distinguished the Spirit from the Son and saying the Spirit wasn't begotten, but breathed out. Now notice the brilliance of their minds, how they're playing on the words. Because in Hebrew, ruach can refer to spirit, breath, or wind. And the Greek word pneuma means spirit, breath, or wind. So they took that, so the Spirit is like breath that God breathes out. But the Son, right, is like a child that God gives birth to. You understand the brilliance of their minds? How they took the language right? And ran with it. So the Spirit is not the Son, he's the Spirit. That means his relation to the Father is different than Jesus. Jesus is a Son, begotten, not made. The Spirit is breathed out by the Father, spiration, without ever severing from the Father. Okay? In Hebrew and Greek, 01, the word spirit can mean breath, wind, or spirit. Breath, wind, or spirit. Okay? So, because the spirit in Greek is pneuma, and in Hebrew is ruach, and it means breath, spirit, or wind, the fathers then understood from that the spirit is like God's breath that's breathed out. See, you breathe out breath, but you don't breathe out a child. You give birth to a child. So they saw these as God's way of communicating how the Son relates to the Father in a different manner from the Spirit. The Spirit is breathed out without separating from God, and the Son is born. You see how they understand the language? How many times do I need to say it? Allahu Akbar. I'll say it again. Okay, one more time. When they said Christ is begotten of the Father, what they meant was that the deity, the divine essence that Jesus possesses, is the Father's own essence that Jesus possesses and shares in eternally, inseparably, but the Father is the source of that essence. That divine essence originates from the Father, that the Son and the Spirit share in. To give you a biblical analogy that's limited and finite, Eve, where did she derive her essence from? Eve, the first woman, where did she derive her essence from? This is not exactly like God. So don't say I'm saying this is God. I'm just giving you an analogy that's limited. An analogy of finite temporal creatures, just to give you an idea of something that's beyond this. Eve was taken out of Adam's side. So notice, Eve's human nature originates from Adam. Her human nature came from Adam. Adam is the source of her human nature. And because her nature originates from Adam, she derived her nature from Adam. She is of the same essence of Adam, so she can't be inferior to Adam. You with me there? And in one sense, Eve was already existing in Adam, because notice, God didn't create Eve from dust. He took her out of Adam. That means she was in Adam as a part of Adam, and then brought out of Adam to be a distinct person. And I'm not saying this is exactly the case with God. I'm not saying this is how God is as a Trinity. So don't misquote me and misrepresent me. I'm giving you an example of a finite human creation that's unlike how God is. But just to wrap your mind around. You with me there? You getting it? Eve was in Adam, comes out of Adam, partakes of Adam's essence and nature. And because she comes out of him, she's from him, she has his nature, which is why she's equal to him in nature, dignity, and value. And in one sense, she was always in Adam, right? Because she came out of him. But she wasn't in him as a distinct person. She came out of him, and then she became personally distinct. This is why this analogy can't carry over to God, because Father, Son, and Spirit have always existed eternally as persons in relationship. See how deep the Bible is? How amazing the Bible is? How mind-blowing the Bible is, and the God of the Bible happens to be? So what's the point? The Father is the source of the divine nature. The Son's divine nature comes from the Father's essence, because it's the one essence of the Father that the Son and the Spirit eternally share in all its fullness. So the Father's deity is the Son's deity, is the Spirit's deity, and the Father is the source of that deity. Right? Now, let me give you the best analogy. An analogy that the church fathers ran with. It comes from Hebrews 1:3. Okay, now, Hebrews 1:3 from the Jehovah's Witness Bible. He is the reflection of God's glory and the exact representation of his very being. There you have it right there. There you have it. I don't know if you caught it. There's the eternal generation. Notice, Jesus is the reflection of God's glory, and he is the exact copy of God's being. Did you catch it? Whose being is Jesus the exact copy of? Whose being does Jesus share? God the Father's. And Jesus is whose reflection? God the Father. There you go, eternal begetting. It's right there. But let me break down the language of reflection. Reflection, that word reflection of God's glory. The word reflection in the Greek, it only appears one time in the New Testament. It's apo. God. Let me see what it is. I think I misspelled it, but let's see. Hebrews 1:3. Apogazma. Apogazma. It's only used one time in the New Testament. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I misspelled it. See? I knew I misspelled it. Here you go. Here's the link to the Greek. Here's the link from the Greek. It's apogazma. Okay. Apogazma. Now, you know what that word means? Let me explain to you the significance of this word and how the fathers use this to show that the Bible teaches that Christ is eternally begotten. Apogazma is the reflection or a light that shines forth from a shiny object. It's the word used in reference to the sun, S-U-N, that radiates light to us. It's the light that comes out of the sun or a shiny object. Now, you understand the implication of that? Radiance. Like the sun in the sky, we see its radiance. What is its radiance? It's light that's bright that comes to us. Now, understand the beauty of this analogy and how amazing this Bible is and the way God inspired these books of the Bible. Get ready to be blown away. The sun in the sky radiates to us light, bright light. That's the radiance of the sun. Number one, the light originates from the sun. But because it originates from the sun and comes out of the sun, the light is of the same essence of the sun. It can't be of a different essence. The light of the sun and the sun are made of the same substance and essence. And yet the sun is the source of the light. It's the one that radiates the light. But the sun cannot be the sun without its light. If at any time the sun doesn't have light, it's not the sun. The sun, to be the sun, always has to have light that it radiates. Otherwise, it's not the sun. It becomes a supernova. You understand the analogy between Father and Son? Jesus is the light that shines forth from the Father being the source of that light. And yet, because Jesus is the light that shines forth from the Father, he has to have the same substance of the Father because he shines forth from the Father. And the Father cannot be the Father without the Son. So just like the light of that shiny object, the sun in the sky, comes forth from the sun, is the radiance of the sun. And because it comes out of the sun, it has the same substance of the sun, and the sun cannot be what it is without the light. It always has to have the light to be what it is. The Father always has to have his own Son to be what he is, even though the Son shines forth from the Father being the source. Did you catch it? So that Greek word refers to the radiance, the outshining of a shiny object. So the sun in the sky, S-U-N, radiates light, shines forth light. The light is the radiance of the sun that comes to us and we see it. But because it originates from the sun, it is of the same essence of the sun. And the sun cannot be what it is if it doesn't have light. If it doesn't have light, it's not actually a sun. That's the analogy right here. The Father is the source of the Son's deity. The Son shines forth from the Father. He's the Father's radiance. Because he's the Father's radiance, he has the same substance of the Father. But for the Father to be who he is, he's always had the Son. Yep, exactly, TBL James. The heat is that fire of the Holy Spirit. Exactly, Anna Groing. The early church fathers used the analogy, and they're getting it from Hebrews 1:3. It's not my analogy. It's the analogy of the fathers based on Hebrews 1 verse 3. Did you catch it? Did it make sense? You with me there? Guys, help me to help you, man. Come on. It's not hard, bro. Stop understanding God from your temporal finite perspective. Just realize you can use the same word for God and it doesn't have the same meaning. God's substance, your substance. Your substance is physical, material, temporal, and finite. God's substance is not material, it's not physical, it's infinite and uncreated. Stop trying to bring God down to your level and define terms in reference to God the way you define them in reference to yourself. Stop that. Isaiah 55, 8-9.